Tonight, we're going to be hearing from my colleagues, James and Robin. They're going to be talking about how to campaign digitally now that the more traditional methods of canvassing and campaigning, so by leafleting and going door to doors, are no longer appropriate. Before they start, I'm just going to give you a few tips on how we're going to run today's Zoom, which will hopefully make it easier and interactive for everyone to take part. First, this Zoom is going to be closed captioned. We're working with the RNID on this, and so if you are hard of hearing and you want to view the captioning, you can enable it by pressing the CC icon on the bottom tools strip on the panel, or on the panel of your phone or computer, the Zoom panel there. Also to let you know that the Zoom is being recorded. Many of our members can't access it live, so we make it available on our YouTube channel. So if you don't want your image to be seen, please remove yourself from the video and go to audio only. I've already said, but you have been muted to make the content of the call clearer. It prevents interruptions and any background noise. So we'll just let those speaking be heard. And if you want to ask questions, we'll enable your sound then. After James and Robin have spoken, we're going to hold a Q&A. There's three ways you can ask a question. You can click on the label at the bottom called participants, and then you click the button raise hand, and that's raising your digital hand, and we'll know that you want to ask a question, and then we'll go over to you. You can post your question in the chat box, which will come to me, or you can email it to events@party.coop. So when it's your turn to ask questions, I'll introduce you and then unmute you too. And just one final thing is just to re-emphasize, the Co-op Party believes that our co-op values should be reflected in all our actions as well as our policies. We want all our members and our event participants to feel safe, welcome and respected in our party. Please ensure that you abide by this when you make your contributions today. I look forward to hearing from them. And now I want to introduce our presenters today. Robin Wild is our communications officer. He is a tech wizard and he has got a huge knowledge of cooperative politics and what will work on social media and using other online tools. James Butler is our campaigns officer, and James is the driving force behind some of our recent campaigns to end modern slavery, to promote food justice, and more recently to protect the community assets that you love. So over to James and to Robin.
Thanks, Izzy. Yeah, so as Izzy says, I'm Robin. I do a lot of the communications work along with my colleague Georgia, who isn't with us tonight. And so behind the scenes, if you get emails from the party, or you see the stuff we put out on social media, or you go to our website and view some of our campaign material there, that's probably me in some capacity. James, if you'd like to quickly introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm James. I'm the campaigns officer. My role is kind of the straight man in this double act between myself and Robin. I'm not completely useless at tech, but I'm probably in the same boat as lots of kind of councillor candidates in that I've got an idea of what I want to do, but I don't necessarily know how to do it. So if Robin starts talking over my head, I'm gonna kind of interrupt and say, can you make it a bit simpler? And later on, we'll be doing some exciting live performance art with Google Forms as well.
Yeah, so I thought that tonight it would be a good opportunity to sort of have a little discussion about what the implications are of another lockdown for campaigning. I know that there's been some talk about some of the local elections being postponed or cancelled again this year. I suspect that's not going to happen for all of them. I know I believe the GLA in London has said that they want to keep having their elections, so there's still going to be elections happening, and these are useful skills to sort of pick up in the long term anyway, because there's always more avenues you can go down than just door knocking and leafleting. Just thinking about what we can do without having to go face to face in a way that is not COVID secure. I thought that one of the ways that we as a party nationally get people involved with our campaigning and hearing more about what our work is and eventually joining us as members is we run petitions and we run surveys and we get people to engage with issues that might not always seem on the face of it to be directly saying co-ops are good, although that's always the undertone of them, I like to think. But getting people to engage with the issues that we're campaigning on, that we care about, and show that their values are our values, and that by working with us on some of our campaigns, we can sort of make positive change. James, can you maybe illustrate a few examples of the stuff that we've done recently that maybe gives a good example of what we do online?
Oh, crikey. Okay. That's thrown me a curveball. I wasn't expecting that. So I think one of the really nice things we've begun to get going, and in Swindon they've used very successfully, they've used an online petition. Obviously we can't go door knocking and collecting petitions via clipboard anymore. They very quickly, within about 12 days, got 161 petitions to save the Oasis Leisure Centre, and they'll be using that to drive forward their local campaign. Now, in lots of cases, that's probably, some of those are Co-op Party members, some of them are part of the wider Co-op Party or even the Labour Party, but a fair few of them will just be concerned residents who've been joined, been encouraged to sign through WhatsApp groups or through Facebook, or even through people texting and haranguing them digitally.
I think certainly it's one of the beauties of digital campaigning is that you no longer have to exclusively go out and knock doors in the rain, and particularly WhatsApp gives a kind of viral potential to a lot of things that you wouldn't necessarily think were easy to share around. But I think a lot of people are involved in them now. I think particularly on a local and community basis, parents groups and neighborhood groups and that kind of thing, where a lot of the content that we produce or that we can come up with as party members is not necessarily overtly political, but it speaks to people in a way that can pass itself along quite well, as James's example illustrates. Is the sort of thing where a small number of petition signatures in the grand scheme of things. It doesn't need to be thousands and thousands. If you're trying to raise awareness of an issue that is there but that hasn't necessarily had the attention it's had before, you can quite quickly get together enough people to sort of be pushing at an open door often. So that's I think as James says, with that Swindon example, I know they ended up getting some local media attention out of that. So digital campaigning can lead to more traditional forms of coverage, which helps you reach even further. You'll all be familiar with using social media channels by this point, just for your personal use, or you'll have a Facebook account or a Twitter account or WhatsApp. But the way those are used for campaigning can be a little bit confusing to people who haven't got involved with them before. I think the way to think about it really is that you have a few different modes you can use it in. So you can have your sort of broadcast mode where you're just making people aware of what you're doing and they can click on something and go through with an action. But you can use it as in a sort of conversational way as well. You can spark discussion around it. Particularly, we've had success with that when we've been campaigning on trying to keep Kit Kats fair trade, which is one of the campaigns we ran over the summer. And we, rather cheekily perhaps, took over the official hashtag that they use on the Kit Kat bars, which meant that basically if anyone went and looked at that, they would see our campaign, and we probably got some more petition signatures that way. And it's that sort of, you have to be thinking about how do you get into the feeds of the people you want to see your campaign. And that's one of the things that why WhatsApp is so powerful, is because you are getting directly to people who, if they're on your list, you'll know them already. So there's a kind of implicit trust there, which if you're using sort of Facebook in broadcast mode can be harder to achieve. Not impossible, but it's easier to do when you're sort of communicating person to person. So with that in mind, I think me and James were hoping to give you a bit of a demonstration of how to put together something really quick, which would be a little form that you can share and host online for free to use as a petition or survey, and you can make sure that that's sent around your community groups, your CLP groups, people who might be interested in helping kickstart something locally. And that could be for anything from like ACV registration, asset of community value, or it could be, trying to save or promote some other change locally, or get your council to do something, or start pushing an issue which relates to your local election campaign. There's a lot of ways you can use this. So James, as my glamorous assistant this evening, is going to be getting started on making this form. We're going to be using Google Forms, which some of you may be familiar with, but it's a free online form hosting tool that Google offers. You do need a Google account to use it, I think, but if you've got one of those, or you can set one of those up, it's a really good way to just get hold of really quite nice survey tools very quickly and gather quite a lot of information. So James, if you want to...
No, I was just going to ask a quick question. When you say Google account, I mean, I've got a Gmail account. Is that one and the same thing?
A Gmail account, anything that's either at gmail.com or is hosted through them is absolutely fine. So,
right. Okay.
And they're free to set up if you don't have one already. So that's nice and easy. So James, are you able to share your screen? And
I am. I feel like, well, as you can see, my homepage is the Co-op Party site. That's as you'd expect. I'm sure that's true for everybody else on the call as well. So I now Google. This is very much like well, you can see chicken cooking time. You can see what I've been up to, can't you? It's very much like a Strictly Come Dancing kind of thing, but without the prep. This is absolutely, I swear, the first time I've ever done this. So yes. I want Google Forms or Google
Forms. Yeah. There we go. And it should be the first result you get. And you'll want the personal option here rather than business. And we'll just go in and create a blank form with that option on the left.
Okay, not T-shirt sign up.
No, although it does. I guess it shows you that there are a lot of things you can do with Google Forms. It's not just for surveys, but it is one of the better things you can do with it. So we'll be straight. Yeah, we're straight in here, and you want to give the form a title.
And part of this will be when I finished. It'll be like a petition form that I can then use.
Yeah, you just generate a link and you can post that on social media, and you can send that around to friends and colleagues and so on. And it'd be really easy to get going with it.
Okay, and one of the things I've kind of seen, I've gone through a lot of the Labour Party training campaign, which has been online campaign, which has been brilliant on the whole. But they're very reliant on using the Labour site's kind of website, which has got an online kind of petition inbuilt.
Yeah.
But speaking personally, it took me quite a while to set that up and get that started. Yeah. So I think for me, this would have been really useful about 6 months ago.
Yes.
I'm sure that lots of people will be in the same boat of waiting for the Labour site's website to come through and setting that up.
So this is, I guess this is a more of a standalone solution if you either don't want to do that, or you're waiting for something new to come through, or you've got your own site and you want to embed it there. So it's quite flexible in terms of what you can do with it.
So what do you think for title?
Oh, I don't know. Is there a particular campaign local to you that stands out, or something that we've been running nationally that you might want to sort of emulate?
I'm against flooding. So
okay.
Can I be against local flooding?
Yes, I go for that. Why not? And then in your form description, which is the next field down, you can give a brief description of what you are campaigning for. You can just go for a few words if it's something very obvious, or you can, if you're doing something more complex, if it's might be around planning or some kind of local policy issue, you can offer a bit more details there, and you can put links and so on to any further information that you might want people to have. So we'll let James put that in.
Very much for flooding. What do you do to get rid of flooding?
Flood prevention.
Flood prevention. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that'll do. Okay, right. So then we're going to want to make sure that that's named correctly as a file, actually. So if you see up there in the top left of the window, it says untitled form. You just click in. If you just click on the text rather than the
that bit there.
Yeah, that, and that should automatically title it with whatever the title of the form is. So that's been saved. Okay, so on every sort of petition, you're going to want people's names. So that's the first place to start. And you'll see it's given you an automatic sort of first question. That's not text formatted at the moment. So if you just click on that.
And it's there, is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
and then there's a drop down on the right. That should give you the option to change which kind of question it is. So you'll see you've got a lot of options here. Generally, generally you'll be looking at sort of the first 5 of those for doing anything, that isn't quite complex. You're unlikely to need to upload files to get files from people or to use the multiple choice grid, useful as they can be. So it's always worth experimenting if you see a way they could be used. But for now, if we're just going to have that as a short answer, which is the top option, and that's used for basically anything that can fit into one line of text. So if you, currently it's untitled, but if you click on the untitled question box, you should be able to rename that and just type in name.
First name, surname?
It's up to you. The more fields you have, you will slightly lower the response rate, the more you're asking people to fill in. So if it was a petition, I think full name in one box is fine. But yeah, I mean, sometimes it's appropriate to have first and second as separate boxes. So, you can leave that up to your discretion. Right, and that I think should be required because it's not much use as a petition signature if they haven't filled in their name. So yeah, there's a checkbox there. So if you click that, there we go. Now they'll be required to fill that in. Next up, we're going to want their email. So we can sort of verify kind of who they are, and also that we can keep in touch with them later about how the campaign's progressing. So that's also going to be a short answer. So we'll just duplicate that. And that is the little icon of the 2 squares at the bottom of the question window. That one. Yeah, so if you click duplicate, and then you can rename that to email. Email address. Okay. Yeah, I think it can sort of, I think Google Forms can interpret that you're looking for an email. I don't know if it has on this occasion, but that will do fine. Do we want that to be required? Sometimes you will and sometimes you won't, is basically the answer. Not everyone will want to give their email, which means that if you have that as required, you might get fewer responses. So if we're doing a petition and we want just as many as possible, you might want to untick that as required. But obviously, people are very welcome to, and you can use that later on. We'll get to that in a little bit. I think we'll also probably, given it's a local issue, we'll probably want to have their postcode just so we can confirm that they live locally. So again, yeah, it'll also be a short answer because it's just a short string of text. So you can just change the title there.
It's required or not required?
It doesn't have to be. I wouldn't not required, I think.
What do you think about putting people's telephone numbers, asking for the telephone numbers there?
You could have that as well if you think that's useful to the campaign. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, why not? Yeah, why not? And that might be useful, particularly if you're trying to organise, if you were trying to organise an event or something, if you're trying to get activists together for something, that could be quite useful. So you can ring around or add people to WhatsApp and so on. Okay, so in theory, that's all we need for a petition. But if we're going to have that be able to be submitted, there's a couple of things we need to do just for data protection reasons. So if you look to that little bar on the right of the current question you're on, that shows you where all the various options you've got for adding new bits to the form.
All right, excuse me, I just need to move you because the Zoom is showing as you're in the way of the Zoom.
No problem, that's fine.
Yeah. So
you'll see there, the top one is add question, but if you look down the options, you've got a couple of other things that might be useful. You can add a title and description. That's just basically a block of text if you need to explain something aside from a question. That can be useful to put in the middle. You can also add images and videos. So if you're doing something like an asset of community value campaign, it might be useful to put a photo of the thing you're trying to protect, just so people know what it is. That last button on the bottom is a section marker that basically divides the form into multiple pages. So if you were doing a longer survey, you might want to do that just so it's not a really long page. But generally for this, we won't be needing that. So that button at the top with the little plus is what you use to add a new question. So we'll do that. And you will want multiple choice is what we want. And this is a consent box. So this is basically checking that people are happy for us to contact them about the campaign and potentially to contact them in future. So I've got a standard form for this, which is down here on my document. And it will need to be something along the lines of, would you like to receive email updates on this campaign? And on other ways to get involved with us.
With us.
Yeah, question mark. And then you'll need to add another line, which is.
Do I need to click anything, or do I just?
No, just keep typing.
Okay.
Just in the same line, and you need to say, view our privacy policy. And at party.coop/privacy. And just to be clear, if you're watching this at home, if you are acting on behalf of your local party, if you're on behalf of your local branch or party council, because you're acting on behalf of the party, that should be fine. That privacy policy covers you as well as us, because you're part of the organisation. And if people go there, they'll be able to look at how we process their data and how we make sure their data is kept safe. And that's part of the GDPR regulations, which have been enforced for the last couple of years. We just need to have that just to make sure that we're legally covered, to make sure that we're handling people's data safely.
If people are kind of standing as Labour and Co-operative, presumably they can get check that with their regional office or regional organizer in terms of.
Yeah, absolutely. Check that with them. You might also need to add your local imprint if you are doing it for Labour and cooperative reasons, which is the same text that you put on the bottom of a leaflet, basically. And you can add that using the title and description tool over on the right.
Which is?
The big T and the little t, yeah. So you can pop that down. And that can go below there. And you might want to put the actual text in the description because it's a bit longer. But don't worry about that for now. That will happen if you're in campaign mode. Okay. So going back to the email updates question, the previous one for a second. Just click on that question that we just added, the multiple choice one down the bottom.
Sorry.
There we go. Just click on that. Yeah. So we'll need two options. That's the same as renaming it. If you just click on option 1's text box, you should be able to rename that. And that
slow down for me. Slow down for me. I'm challenged. What am I
clicking
on?
Click on where it says option 1.
Yeah.
And you should be able to rename that. So you'll need one box for yes and one box for no.
And where do I rename it?
Or you just type while that's highlighted, and it should rename it for you.
Got you.
There we go. And then add option. And then no will be automatically added because it knows you're trying to ask a yes/no question. And that will need to be required just to make sure that we're.
And that's down here, isn't it?
Yeah. And just to be clear, if people say no, they don't want to be contacted about it, you're not allowed to email them or use that data. And but if they have signed it and it's a petition, you can still maybe remove their email address and any contact information, but you can still submit their name as part of that. That should be fine.
So if it was going to council.
Yeah. Now, I mean, if it's being submitted to a council, they will have their own GDPR compliance, so they should be a safe place to send the information to. They will have procedures to make sure that is kept safe at their end as well. So yeah, in theory, that is now ready to go. So what we'll need to do next is just quickly think about some of the other. I just think it might be useful to think quickly about some of the other question types that are available. So if you go back to the add question button on the right there.
Do you want me to click it?
Yeah, click that, and we'll just add a new one. We'll just have a little quick look through what the other options are. So if you click that drop down where it says multiple choice, you'll see that we've got, so there's multiple choice and there's checkboxes. If you just change it to checkboxes for a second, you'll see that looks very similar. The difference with that is that it allows people to choose more than one option. So if you were doing a survey and you had various ways people could get involved with your local campaign, say, and you could have, you know, I want to join the party, I want to do some leafleting, I want to, you know, go to a meeting or something like that. You'd add each of those as an option, and then people could choose as many of those as they wanted to do.
So where am I typing? I'm typing in question here.
So the question would be something like, would you like to get more involved?
Oh,
and then the options would be things, yeah, would be those other things I mentioned. So yeah, and then you could add there, yes, I'll help leaflet, or yes, I'll join the party, and so on. And by clicking add option at the bottom of that form, you can add as many of those as you like. That button that says add other, that just leaves a blank slot for people to type in their own suggestions. So that might also be useful sometimes. Yeah, so something like that we can, yeah, and then
again.
Yeah, and that can be how you can gather some of that information. Now that probably shouldn't be below the consent statement, so you might want to move that up, and I can teach you how to do that. So you see at the top of the question box, there's 6 little dots. If you grab those, click on those, and you should be able to drag it and reorder your questions as you see fit. So that's now in theory, I think, ready to go. Oh, if you go, no, I think that should be fine. The other question types that might be useful to you, there is a drop-down option that works pretty much the same as the multiple choice, but it's just in a drop-down box rather than all listed in front of you. And there's an option for paragraph text, which is very much like the short answer, but it just gives you more space to put in text. So if you wanted a free-form survey response where you could ask people's thoughts on something, and they give you that, that would be what you'd use that for. So
I'll give that a go.
Yeah, give that a try. Let's add another question and we'll just see how that works. So paragraph, yeah. And there we go. And that's should be good to go. And now people, when they want to answer, can type in as much text as they want, basically. I think there is a very high limit, but unless they're typing in pages and pages, that shouldn't be a problem. Next up, I think, so we've covered the privacy, we've covered that. We're going to need to be able to send a petition out so people can actually sign it.
Sorry, before we do that, do I need to save this at all?
No, it automatically saves as you go. So you should be fine. And you'll see at the top there, it says all changes saved in Drive. It does that every time you make a change. There we go. So that's not a problem. Just to give you, just to go over the other options on this for a second, you see at the top there, you've got a little icon of a palette, a painter's palette. Mm-hmm. That's your theme. So you can change things like the colors of the form. Just click that and we'll have a little look at the options. Yeah, so at present it's Co-op Party Purple, which is on brand. But if you wanted to change it to Labour Red, you just click the red button there. And if there's a little plus at the bottom of that, you could add a custom color as well if you wanted to. And you just choose that with the color picker there. But I think we're fine to, pick whatever you want. And then that should be, yeah,
Ooh,
good.
No, I want my purple back.
I can tell you the Co-op Party color if you'd like.
Yeah, go on.
It's 3F1 D70. There we go.
Oh, you know what? I feel better already.
Yeah, so perfect. And you can edit things like the fonts in there as well. Generally, you're fine to leave it as the default. But if you wanted to experiment with customizing it a bit more, that would be where you'd do it. So that second button there, next to the palette, that's what you can use if you want to see what your form will look like to users. So click that now, James, and let's have a look at how that looks. So this is how it will look on the on the user end. So if you scroll down there, you see all the questions, and then when they've filled all those in.
I'm having an epiphany here. I've been asked to, I suppose along with lots of people, sign lots of petitions for and against lots of things in the last 6 months.
Yes.
And this is what they've been using, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. It's a really useful tool. So that's why I thought it was worth teaching you. So if you close that browser tab, you'll just go back to your...
That's the X here, yeah.
That's right.
Hang on. It's getting complicated because my screen share is in the way. Right, got you. Okay.
Oh, okay, there we go. So we're back to your editing it. So now if you wanted to get that linked to share with other people, you'll want that send button in the top right.
So I can't just use this link here.
No, if you send that out, it won't work because that's the link to edit the form. So they'll need to be logged into your account for that to work. But if you want to send it out for people to fill in, you want to hit that send button. And then by default, it asks you to send it via email, but generally you wouldn't want that. That's for if you're sending it to an individual or a small list of people. But if you want to get a link, which you can also email out, you want that second tab there, the little chain. Yeah. Click that, and that will give you a link. And if you copy that,
what does that button do?
That basically creates a shorter link if you want to take up less characters. It takes you to the same place. So if you click that, and you'll see it'll give you a shorter version of the link. Okay. And then if you do what it says and press Control-C, you'll copy that link, and then you can paste that wherever you like, so into Facebook or Twitter or into a group chat.
Now, what would happen if I try and paste it into the comment section?
It should work fine. And actually, it might be good to try that just to see if people can get it on their end.
Right. I can't do that unless I stop sharing. So if I stop sharing,
okay.
Then...
Don't worry about it. Okay. We'll be able to. What we'll probably be able to do is email out to attendees later and just give them a sort of recording of this, and b a little bit of a tutorial if you want to follow this along at home. So for now, that would give you the link that you'd want to, so you could send it out to other people. That third option there on that bar next to the link icon.
That one there.
Yeah. Oh. That if you click on that, it will give you that's called embed code. And if you do run your own website and you want to have the form embedded on there, that would be what you'd use. Generally, you're not going to be doing that, but if anyone is watching and does know how to put in custom HTML on their website, then they're very welcome to. You'll also notice over to the right, you've got Facebook and Twitter share buttons. So that's really useful if you just want to share it straight to your Facebook or Twitter. You can do that just by clicking those links. So that will, give you a pre-filled tweet that you can just click send on, and then hopefully people will fill that in. Although it's usually nice to add a custom message telling them why you want them to fill it in. So
it says collect email addresses here.
So that basically creates an email address field in the form. If we didn't have one already, you might as well click that actually, because we can show people just sort of how it works. So there we go. That will now collect emails. So yes, let's leave that on. And if you click the X on the send form box that's currently up.
Out there.
Yeah. Because that's now collecting emails, we can delete the email address field that we've put in, because it's now at the top. So if you scroll down just a sec, so we had just above the postcode box, there's the email address box. So if you click in there, there's a little bin icon. And if you click that, that will mean that there's now only one email address field, which is the one that is at the start of the form. It does make the email addresses compulsory, so you don't always want to have that on if you're not bothered about collecting emails. But I tend to find that it's pretty useful to have the emails, because it means you can sort of keep up with people on it later. So once you've shared your form and people have filled it in, you're going to want to have the data from that, so you can email them and keep in touch. The way you would do that is, you see at the top there's a questions and a responses tab.
Yeah.
You'd click over to the responses tab, and this is where it would actually be quite good to have people fill it in, because I could show you how this works. But it's let me think if there's a way we can do that easily.
Well, how if I stop sharing, put it in the
Stop
chat.
sharing for a second.
Back.
Put it in the chat, and if a couple of people want to fill it in, I can then show you how you sort of deal with the responses. So
you should see it in the chat now.
Yeah, if you head to the chat function, and then if you want to fill that in, and it'll help us show you guys how it works.
And then I want to come back to here.
Yeah. And we'll see who's first. But by the way, if you don't want to share information with everyone on this Zoom, that's absolutely fine, and you can feel free to use a fake email or something like that. We just want to have someone fill it in so we can so that it's done.
What kind of real time is this? I mean, are we going to be hearing
very real time. They will come through as they are entered, so you shouldn't need to refresh, but you'll be able to see them as they come up, if all's going well anyway. I might just fill it in myself just to make sure that it's
whilst we're waiting, I can see a few people have got questions. I'm just wondering whether Izzy might be
Izzy, if you want to come in, and if there's any questions that present themselves, that would be good.
Yeah, there's a couple that in the chat that have come up. Robin, would you put the Pantone reference again for the Co-op Party colours in the chat? That would be useful.
Oh yeah, sure, no problem.
Someone else has said, can you put photos onto the form? How do you do that?
Yeah, I can show James how to do that once we've got some responses in. I think that would be a good thing to do. James, if you've got any photos you think are particularly nice that you want to show the chat, that's fine. Oops, I think I've just direct messaged someone with that. No, I need to send this to everyone. James, did you send the link to everyone, or did you just send it to me?
I think it went to everybody in the waiting room, and there isn't anyone in the waiting room, so I'm just resending it now.
There we go. Thank you, Izzy. That's great.
That's what hasn't worked.
Yeah, it's very much like the episode of Strictly Come Dancing where they're doing everything live, but we're having not trained it, and it had to repeat it. Yeah,
exactly. So I'm gonna just quickly fill in this form for you as well. Well, giving me my thoughts on flooding, which is that flooding is bad. And yes, I'll say I want to. Okay, so I'll submit that. And
oh gosh, it's come through already.
There we go. Yeah, so it came through immediately. So there's my. Yeah, you'll see that they're populating as people send in their responses, so it's ticking up nice and quickly. And this will just give you a list for basically everyone who has filled it in. But obviously, that's not always how you're going to want the data. You might want it in a more structured format, like in a spreadsheet. And one of the good things about Google Forms is that you can do that quite easily. So you'll see that it's very good at doing the data visualization. So you'll see there you've got the yes no pie chart, and you can see just what sort of rates you're getting for people accepting more detail, and that could be useful because it can tell you whether you've structured your form well. Like if the language is welcoming and it sounds like a campaign people want to get involved with, they're more likely to click yes. So that can tell you if you have a high no rate on that, you might need to reword it. So it's always worth keeping an eye on how the responses are breaking down, and you'll see there as well. It will do the bar graphs for the types of involvement. Now, it doesn't always go perfectly, as you'll see there. If people are entering variations on a string of text, like a postcode is, then it'll sometimes give you slightly odd data visualization. But for now, if you scroll back up to the top of the document, and you'll see next to your response number, there is a little green icon. It
looks like it should be a Scandinavian flag.
That's right, yeah. So if you click that, that's the symbol for Google Sheets, and that's Google's spreadsheet program, which is, so if you leave it on create a new spreadsheet and click create at the bottom of that box.
Hang on, I've got a Zoom issue. It's in you.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah.
and that will give you, and that will spit out responses in a spreadsheet. So now if you wanted to, for example, sort that by everyone who said they wanted to receive emails and then to get the emails of those people, it would be dead easy. So that's a bit outside the scope to teach you how to do spreadsheets. But
so to be clear, we need to sort the yeses from the nos and essentially remove the nos if we want to use them.
Yeah, you can't email the nos basically, and it's best practice just to remove their emails entirely, just so you don't accidentally contact someone and get in trouble. And the easiest way to do that would be to sort the that field by A to Z, and then you get all the yeses and then all the nos. So.
Right, now I think I know how to do that.
Yeah, it's that little drop down there, and you'll want sort sheet A to Z.
I can't see, where's that?
Down the bottom there. And there we go. So all the no's are at the top, and then all the yeses are below that. Because
and we can just highlight and
delete cells. I think would be the one you'd want, and then shift up. Okay, it doesn't like you cutting them. That's odd, but fine.
We've had a question about what best practice is in terms of dealing with releasing petitions on Facebook and Instagram and other tools. What would you say to that?
Best practice for releasing them. I think that you should. The best advice I can give with launching campaigns digitally is you should always try and get the maximum impact early on. Because it's always when you're going to get the most eyes on it. So what it would be good to do, particularly if you're working as part of a local branch or party council, or as part of a local CLP, is just to make sure that you tell other people that are involved in that organisation to start sharing it once you post it, because then it can sort of pick up a bit of momentum early on. It's harder if you sort of make a quiet launch to sort of get people interested in it later on. So post about it early, make sure that it gets high impact early on, and then sort of keep posting about it regularly. Make sure it doesn't drop off people's radar, because people's attention span online can be very short. So maybe every couple of days while the campaign's ongoing, just make sure you're putting out a post that just reminds people that it's still ongoing, so you can keep up a bit of momentum. That's generally the best approach.
Great.
Okay. So James, have you
stop screen sharing?
Stop screen sharing. Would it be useful if we go back and show someone how to put an image into the form?
Right, okay.
Yep, that would be great. Whilst you're doing that, we've had another question from Fabian, who says, how do we make sure we don't lose where the petition is kept on the Google Drive?
So if you go, if you do what James did back at the start of the tutorial and just go to the Google Forms homepage, it should show you all the ones that have been created by your account.
Try and do that.
Yeah, if you do that. So just look up Google Forms. And there you go. Back to personal.
Back to where, sorry?
Personal, that button on the left. And you'll see there, your most recent forms, it will show you that's where you go to edit it. And if you wanted to make sure that you don't lose track of the link to send it to people, then when you go to the send button when you're editing the form,
choose that one.
Yeah. What you can do is click that, James, and then go to the second tab with the link.
That one.
Yeah. If you then click the copy button in the bottom right.
Yeah.
And can you open a new tab in your browser?
Yeah, it's not the easiest thing given I'm screen sharing. Hang on a second. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then paste that into there and go to that. And that's the live form for people to submit to. And now if you wanted to bookmark that, just press Control D. There you go, and click done. And then you'll have that in your bookmarks. So if you want to refer back to it and send people the direct link, you can do that from there. If you want to for any reason. So if you close that tab, we'll go back to the form and close that little box. Now, if you want to go back to the questions tab,
Where are we?
Yeah, sorry. So that's not quite what I meant, but that is worth discussing in a minute. So,
Okay.
Yeah, so if you wanted to add an image, what you do is you see the bar over on the right, James. The fourth option down, the little mountains in the frame, that's your add image button. So if you click that, generally there's a few options here, but generally you'll want the upload button. If you can find a photo that's nice. Okay, so get some photos of lovely Duffield. There we go, very pleasant. Generally you'll want a landscape one for viewing online, but portrait is fine. And what that will do then is, yeah, that will insert that into the form for you, and you can give it a title if you want, but you don't have to. And yeah, then when you publish the form, that will be viewable.
Can I change the size of this at all?
Hold on, you might be able to. This is why I generally advise using a landscape one, because it takes up less room. So there's a little drop down under the title of the image. I don't know what that does. Yeah, I don't think you can change the size. You can change the alignment, but yeah, so that's worth keeping in mind, actually, if you don't want it to take up too much space. That's generally a good way to treat things, is try and keep them landscape. That would work.
We've had a question from Mick to say, is it worth paying to boost a post on Facebook?
Yeah, very much can be. It's quite a good way of getting eyes in front of your content, particularly if you're trying to get something off the ground, and you don't need to spend very much money on it. I think particularly if you're operating within quite a small local area, you can put £20 or £30 behind something, and it will do reasonably good numbers. So that's yeah, always want to keep in mind. It's worth bearing in mind, Facebook can be funny if you're running what it sees as a political content. You can have to be approved for that, which is a bit of an arduous process. You have to send in ID and things. I've done it because I have to do it for work, but you might not want to. So it's worth keeping that in mind. If it's something sort of community focused that is not overtly political, you can probably get away with it. But if you do want to run political ads, if you're running for a campaign or something, speak to your regional officer and see if they can help you out with that.
Great. And whilst we've just been talking about that, I've had a couple more questions on about inserting pictures into the forms.
Sure.
Mick says, can we add more than one image?
Yeah, you can add as many as you like. I generally wouldn't put too many in because it might put people off filling in the form in. But yes, there's no limit. And
Russell says, can we put an image in the background of the survey?
I think you can. James, could you just quickly go back to so at the top of the form there, you've got the questions tab. If you go back to that, and then could you click the palette tool in the top right?
Yep.
And then Eileen has come to clarify about in regulation period in advance of elections that
sure.
Paid ads can only be posted with agreement of the agent and need to be declared as a candidate expense.
That's useful. Thank you. I say I'm not an expert on that side of it, so yeah, it's always worth checking. And thank you for that. Yeah. So as James is demonstrating, you can add a header image. I don't think you can add a specific background to the form, but if you do that, James, and you'll show us what that looks like.
Yeah, I'm showing my age. Older viewers will know that as ORAC.
I know that as ORAC, so maybe I'm showing my age. But yes, it's quite appropriate, James, given that you are obeying my commands.
Yeah.
Just quickly pop back to the responses tab. I'm trying to think if there's other things to show you guys.
I did click on question there.
Yes, that's right.
That's quite interesting.
It is interesting. So what that does basically is you can go through question by question, and it will show you people's individual responses for that, I think. So scroll down a second. Yeah, that'll show you the range of responses that have been entered for a particular question. So you'll see here they'll all be different because everyone's got a different name. But if you click that drop down where it says full name, sorry, the one above that, There we go. And then if you maybe go for the would you like to get more involved option, and that will show you yeah, how many people have submitted different combinations of those checkboxes, for example. So you'll see that a lot of people have just ticked all 3, but not everyone has. So that'll show you which of those are the most popular. That can be useful if you're getting a lot of responses, just to see which are the most effective. And then if you scroll back to the top of the page, you'll see the third tab is individual, and that lets you go through each person's individual responses. So if you're doing a longer form questionnaire and you wanted to get someone's full range of survey responses to enter into, to do some data entry with or something, that would be where you do it. And you could just tick through those one by one. That tends to be more useful for smaller forms for obvious reasons. If you've got hundreds of people answering it, it can be quite arduous to get through them. But if you wanted to pick out a particular thing, that would be a good way to do it. So I think that pretty much covers most of the things you can do with Google Forms. Well, it doesn't actually cover them all, but it covers most of the things that we would want for our purposes. So Izzy, is there anything else question-wise that you're thinking?
No, I don't think we've had anything else in the chat. Do put anything else that you might want some clarification on. Otherwise, you can always get in touch with us in the week. We are going to put this on our Co-op Party YouTube account, so you can listen to it again if you've missed anything today. But we all, the team at Co-op Party HQ, are all currently in their offices at home, but we're here to support all our members. So do reach out if you need any more help and information or advice on running any of your campaigns. And the best of luck.
Be happy to go on, James.
I've just got a quick question. You being the kind of tech guru, can we blur out people's confidential data when we're into the
yes,
sheet form?
I'm going to edit that, so I will block out anything that's identifying. Yeah, that's not a problem.
Great, and we'll probably get that up on our YouTube account in the next day or so, Robin.
By the end of the week, I would have thought. Yeah.
Fantastic.
So I am also thinking of potentially, with the local elections coming up, doing some more. This might not be in video form; it might be written tutorials or something. But if there's anything technical that you'd like to know about running digital campaigns in lieu of some of the bits of physical campaigning that you're probably more used to, I'd be happy to do that if it helps us secure more cooperators in councils and in assemblies and metro mayors. So let me know if you've got any thoughts on that. You can always email us at mail@party.coop and ask to see if we can have a look at something like that.
That's fantastic, and thank you everyone for joining us today. Just to let you know that this is the first in a series of weekly Zooms that we're holding. Next week we are hearing from some of our cooperative party council leaders and some other cooperative heroes from the COVID-19 crisis about the lessons that they've learned from lockdown and how we need to prepare for this one. So I do hope you're able to join us then. Otherwise, thank you for joining us now, and good night. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.